At 24, I thought I knew exactly what a good man looked like. He was ambitious. He had a plan. He walked into a room and you felt it, that particular kind of energy that makes everyone turn their head, that pull that you cannot quite name but you absolutely feel. He was the kind of man who made grand gestures. Who surprised you? Who kept you slightly off balance in a way that felt, at the time, like passion? I was wrong. Not partially wrong, completely, embarrassingly, expensively wrong. And it took me 40 years to understand why. I want to talk about that today, about how the definition of a good man changes or should change as you move through life, about what 24 is blind to and what 64 finally sees clearly, and about why the standard we held at the beginning is often the very thing that cost us the most. Because I think a lot of women my age are sitting with a quiet version of this realization. The men we chose when we were young looked a certain way, sounded a certain way, and somewhere between then and now, we learned that what we were measuring was almost entirely the wrong thing. The surface checklist. At 24, I had a list. I did not write it down, but it was there, fixed in me, the way these things are fixed in young women, through every film we watched, every magazine we read, every conversation we had about what made a man worth wanting. He had to be driven, going somewhere. That ambition, that forward momentum, felt like proof of something. Like a man who wanted more from life would also want more from you. Like success in one area guaranteed depth in another. He had to have presence, charisma, the ability to hold a room, because confidence, we were told, was attractive. And confidence that other people could see and validate felt like the real thing. And he had to make you feel it. That electricity, that breathlessness, that sensation in your chest when he walked in or when his name appeared on your phone, we called it chemistry. We treated it like the most reliable signal there was. And the grand gestures, the unexpected flowers, the surprise trip, the dramatic declaration at exactly the right moment. These felt like evidence of love. They felt like a man who cared enough to try. What we did not understand at 24, what nobody told us, or if they did, we were not ready to hear it, is that all of those things are remarkably easy to perform, and they tell you almost nothing about who a man actually is. Ambition is not the same as character. Charisma is not the same as integrity. Chemistry is not the same as compatibility. And grand gestures, more often than not, are the signature move of a man who cannot sustain the ordinary. The illusion of potential. Here is the thing about the men we chose when we were young. Many of us, we did not fall in love with who they were. We fell in love with who we believed they were going to become. He had so much potential. He just needed the right circumstances, the right support, the right woman. And somewhere inside us, we believed that woman could be us. I knew women. I was that woman who spent years, sometimes decades, loving a version of a man that lived mostly in their imagination, who kept adjusting, kept accommodating, kept believing that the potential they had seen on the surface would eventually make its way inward. It almost never did, because potential is not a promise. It is not a plan. It is what we tell ourselves when the present reality is not quite enough, but we are not ready to say so. And the thrill of it, the unpredictability, the chase, the way a man like that could make ordinary days feel charged with possibility, that thrill is real. I am not dismissing it. At 24, It is intoxicating. But intoxication is not a foundation. And what feels exciting at 24 feels exhausting at 44. And by 64, most of us have paid the full price for confusing the two. The moment of clarity, when it comes, is rarely dramatic. It does not arrive in a single conversation or a sharp argument. It comes slowly. In the accumulation of moments where you needed something steady and got something spectacular instead, where you needed someone to show up quietly and got someone who showed up loudly, only when there was an audience. It comes when you finally admit to yourself that you have been waiting for a man to become something for so long that you can no longer remember who you were before you started waiting. The pivot to emotional architecture. What I started looking for, what I think most women eventually start looking for, if they give themselves permission, is something far less visible and far more valuable. The ability to hold space, not to fix, not to solve, not to redirect the conversation towards something more comfortable, but to sit with you in difficulty without flinching, to hear something hard and stay present with it, to say, I am here, tell me more. That is a form of strength that 24 does not recognize as strength because it is quiet. It does not fill a room. It does not photograph well. It does not make for a good story at a dinner party. But when your world falls apart, and at some point everyone's does, it is the only strength that matters. I think about the women I know who have been through real things. A diagnosis, a loss, a child in crisis, a business that failed, a grief that would not lift. And I think about which of those women had a partner who actually held them through it, who did not manage the situation from a distance, who did not offer solutions when what was needed was presence, who did not tell them to look on the bright side or to be grateful or to move on, who simply stayed. That capacity to be genuinely present in someone else's hard moment without making it about their own discomfort is rarer than I ever understood when I was young. And it is, I think, the truest measure of emotional strength I know. I also think about what it means to feel safe in your nervous system with another person, not just to admire them, not just to be attracted to them, but to feel in the most physical way that you can exhale around them, that you do not need to monitor your words or manage your tone or calibrate how much of yourself is safe to show, that you can simply be fully without bracing for the response. That feeling, that settled, quiet ease, I did not even have language for it at 24. I mistook anxiety for attraction and called it chemistry. I mistook the relief of his attention for connection and called it love. The difference, I know now, is everything. The quiet power of integrity. The men I respect most now are not the ones who made the grandest gestures. They are the ones who did the small things reliably over time, who said they would be somewhere and were there, who said they would do something and did it, not because they were being watched, not because there was something to gain, but because they understood at some level that the whole structure of a shared life is built from these small kept promises, and that breaking them, even the minor ones, is a kind of slow erosion. Integrity is not heroism. It is not the one time you showed up when it really mattered. It is the 1,000 ordinary times you showed up when no one was keeping score, when there was no applause, when the only reward was your own knowledge that you were someone who could be relied upon. At 64, I find that genuinely impressive. more impressive than I find almost anything else. A man who is the same person in private as he is in public, who does not perform goodness, but practices it quietly, daily, without announcement. And I want to say something about emotional labor, because I think it matters here. For most of my adult life, the emotional management of a relationship fell to me. The noticing of what needed to be addressed, the initiating of difficult conversations, the tracking of where we were and where we needed to be, the carrying of the relational load, invisibly, because that was simply understood to be the woman's job. I no longer accept that as the bare minimum, not because I am angry about the years I spent doing it, but because I understand now what a partnership actually looks like when both people carry it. What it feels like to be with a man who notices, who initiates, who asks how you are and means it and listens to the real answer, who does not wait to be told that something needs to be said. That, at 64, is not a bonus. It is the minimum. The legacy of a life partner. There is a version of choosing a partner that is about the present, about who makes you feel most alive right now, most desired, most interesting to yourself. And then there is a version of choosing a partner that is about the long arc, about who you want next to you, not in the exciting moments, but in the quiet ones, the difficult ones, the ones that come inevitably when the body begins to slow down and the life you built together starts to require a different kind of tending. At 64, I think about partnership differently than I did at 24. I think about who I want present when things get genuinely hard, not romantically hard, practically, physically, existentially hard. Who do I want in the room when the news is not good? Whose voice do I want to hear in the middle of the night when the anxiety will not let me sleep? Whose steadiness do I want beside me as the years get quieter and the stakes get higher? Not the man who made me feel most alive at a party in 1985. The man who shows up on a Tuesday when there is nothing glamorous happening and nothing to perform. Who sits with me in the mundane and finds it enough. Who measures his love not by the height of the peaks, but by his willingness to stay through the valleys. I think about the women I know who have a man like that. And I think about how rarely they describe him in the language of romance. They say things like, he is steady, he is reliable, he never makes me feel like a burden. He listens, he shows up. They say it quietly, almost matter-of-factly, because it is so ordinary what he does. It is just there, every day, holding everything up. And that is the thing. The quiet ones do not get celebrated in the same way. They are not the story you tell at dinner parties. They are not the subject of films or novels or songs. The man who does not raise his voice, who keeps his word, who notices when you are tired and does something about it without being asked, he does not make for dramatic narrative, but he makes for a life. And that, I think, is what 64 finally understands that 24 could not. The grand gesture is a single frame. The quiet integrity is the whole film. And the whole film is the only thing worth choosing. If something in this resonated with where you are today, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you are not already here, subscribe, because this is exactly what we talk about on this porch. I am Patricia, and I will see you next week